Talanoa Hufanga and the Denver Broncos defense made Bo Nix and the offense's life miserable in Friday's practice. Can they shake it off going into Saturday? We'll preview that and much more on today's episode, Locked on Broncos.
You are Locked on Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Broncos Country? Welcome into another episode of Locked on Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, where you know it's your team every day for all your Broncos news, content coverage, analysis, and more. This is the place to be. So make sure, if you're not an everydayer already, become one by hitting that subscribe or that follow button wherever you get your podcast. And a special shout out. Thank you so much to Broncos Country for making us your first listen. I'm Cody Roark, Broncos reporter for Mile High Sports, joined as always by Sayre Bedinger, the longtime site expert over there at predominantlyorange.com. And here's what you're going to get on today's episode of the show, recapping Friday's training camp practice. The Denver Broncos defense won the day, led by Talanoa Hufanga. They swarmed Bo Nix in the offense. We'll talk about what happened in Friday's practice and whether or not the offense can bounce back in Saturday's upcoming scrimmage. Plus, Micah Parsons of the Dallas Cowboys requested a trade. We'll go through why the Broncos should or should not inquire about the star pass rusher in Dallas. Plus, we'll go through some other Broncos camp news and notes, including updates on Dre Greenlaw, Q Robinson, and much more on today's episode show. Sayre, look, Friday's practice for the Broncos after Thursday's practice initially was one that the offense won the day. They benefited from it. Friday was back to full pads, and the defense, they controlled the narrative from start to finish. It was a dominant day for the Broncos defense, and it was all led and started by Talanoa Hufanga, the Broncos key offseason addition in free agency.
One of my favorite things when we talk about Talanoa Hufanga is talking about how when he's out there on the field, it's going to feel like the Broncos have 12 guys because he's just that strong in his instincts in attacking the football when it's in the air, right? And he's that type of guy who he's the heat-seeking missile. He's the player that you don't want to see coming when you catch the ball and you turn upfield. Like, he is that guy. And he does make plays on the ball. He's not just a hard-hitting safety. I think that's the big distinction that we need to make now because of what he's kind of known as, or maybe what he's known for. He's known for those big hits. He's known for being physical. But to me, Cody, anytime I remember what he did with the San Francisco 49ers, it's all about those ball skills. It's all about the instincts, and it's all about being not just in the right place at the right time, but putting yourself where you need to be to create those takeaways. It's more than just causing havoc for an offense, although his ball skills help him do that. I feel like when he's out there, it just gives that sort of Tasmanian devil feel for an opposing offense. So where the guy is almost frantic, but it's a controlled chaos, very much so when it comes to Talanoa Hufanga.
Who's the guy the kid from the Wild Thornberries? What was his name that, makes all the crazy noises? Like,
I know exactly. I wish I could remember. Yeah.
Gosh. Somebody in the comments, our age is shown. Like, we're old. I think, is it Timmy? I don't know if it's Timmy, but you mentioned like the Tasmanian devil here for a guy like Hufanga. Donnie, yeah. That's exactly like when you watch Talanoa Hufanga play, that's exactly what I think of here, because this guy is everywhere. And look, I like how the Broncos and Vance Joseph are using him. They are moving him around to different spots. Of course, he's playing back and they're doing two high shell stuff alongside Brandon Jones. But on the interception that he had of Bo Nix, and we'll get into Bo's struggles on the afternoon here a little bit later, it was an RPO concept that the Broncos offense was running. And Bo, I mean, he had a guy coming free on a crossing pattern there. Hufanga was at about 8 yards depth, right? Kind of really next to the linebacker. I don't know if they were blitzing a linebacker, but he was kind of lurking underneath. Bo thought he had a guy wide open on the crosser, and then out of nowhere, you just see Hufanga jump up into the air and pick it. I mean, you couldn't have timed it perfectly. It was one of those plays Sean Payton said after practice. He said it was really good. You got a lot of praise there. But also there was a play as well where they got the ball to Jaleel McLaughlin, who we found out is at 199 pounds there. And he's bigger. He's still just as fast. He caught a pass from Bo Nix and was about to turn it upfield and got walloped by Hufanga there, right? So you love the physicality he's going to bring to the table. I have a strong feeling just based on knowing this defense, but watching Hufanga and Brandon Jones play alongside each other, I have a feeling this is going to be the most crucial aspect of this Broncos defense. Yes, the pass rush is important, But I think those two guys on the back end and how they work and what they're going to do at different spots in the middle of the field, downfield, across the hash, and even in the box, I think that's going to be the secret sauce here to the Broncos defense.
Well, because didn't it feel like the last 2 years that the Broncos were able to kind of have their way at times in the pass rush department, and their biggest weakness was arguably giving up big plays? And that's kind of how it felt to me, is that just at stretches during the game, you would give up a big play here and a big play there, and you kind of let it snowball. Or late in games, you have a running back that's just able to take over because he's more physical than the guys that you have. And now you have a couple of guys out there that can not just match that physicality, but swing the pendulum back in your favor. And that's where the Broncos, I think, are going to be, like you said, improve the most. You and I talked about what's going to be the biggest offseason addition for this team, or how is it going to be felt the most? And I think you and I agree that that combination of Hufanga and Greenlaw in the middle of the defense, taking that unit from what was third in the NFL in points allowed last year up to hopefully number one here in 2025, those two guys, and Hufanga maybe specifically because he shrinks the field. That's what I mean when I say it makes it feel like you've got 12 defenders out there. It's just a disadvantage almost naturally when you have guys like that out there. The 49ers experience that. They know that. That's why the guy was an all-pro safety, is because he makes defenses, or he dictates what offenses do so directly with his presence on the field. And so I'm excited to hear about it. But obviously the questions everybody's going to be asking is like, what about Bo Nix in that regard? Because the guy's not allowed to have a rough practice or a rough throw up practice or whatever it may be. Why do you think, or do you think it's a cause for concern at this point?
I don't think it's a cause for concern at all. I mean, I think when you look at Hufanga's interception, and Sean Payton will see it on film. We don't get to film that. Fans don't get to film that. But if you go back and you watch it, I have a good memory. Andrew Mason's got a good memory as well. It was a fantastic play there by Hufanga where Bo didn't see him. He was lurking. He had really good depth there behind the defensive line. And obviously you have the big guys on the offensive line kind of creating a little bit of a big lane, big wall as well. He just made a terrific play. Bo had another interception on the day, and we'll talk about that. It was on a pass intended for Courtland Sutton. And Sean Payton kind of said it was a similar concept to what the Broncos ran in 2023 at Houston, where I think it was in the third quarter or the fourth quarter. Remember that post pattern that Courtland Sutton was running and Derek Stingley jumped it and intercepted it? Same exact thing on there, but there was a defensive illegal contact penalty that was thrown on the play. So it really would have negated the interception. Bo just tried to toss it downfield to where he thought he was going to have Courtland Sutton. And Sean Payton said after practice, it's not a concern. It's something you go back and you watch on film, say, okay, hey, what were you thinking here? Like, what was your process? What were you looking at? Tell me why you were going here. What did you see? It's that. And it's like, all right, and then it's going out there and brushing off. This was a bad day for Bo Nix. It was his worst practice so far of training camp. Bo's had a great camp so far. Today was the real first bad day that we saw from him. But I also feel like after that second throw that got intercepted by Pat, that obviously it didn't count as a pick, but it still was a pick at the end of the day if you talk about it. The thing that I want to highlight there is on the next two plays, I thought Bo did a really good job of bouncing back. He went right back to Courtland Sutton on a crosser on the middle of the field for about a 14, 15-yard gain. And then he found Troy Franklin for about a 12 or 13-yard gain. So shaking that off and still going out there and making some throws, you're not seeing his confidence waver. I think while it's important to acknowledge that Bo had a bad day, there's no reason to be concerned at all. And Broncos aren't concerned. And I don't think anybody's concerned. So if anyone's trying to peddle that, stop it.
Yeah, it's football practice, right? I mean, this stuff
you want to make it in practice.
Yeah, you want to make those throws in practice and talk about it after the fact. And I think that it's just delusional to think that Bo is going to go into the season and, he's going to have the best touchdown interception ratio in the league. He's not going to throw any picks. And we know that it would be nice. Absolutely. I'll take 55 touchdowns and whatever the stat line was from Peyton Manning back in 2013. I'll take that. But look, with a young quarterback, you are going to have mistakes. And during the season, as we've seen many times, you're going to get those mulligans as well. You'll make a mistake and there's a penalty on that mistake and you get a second chance, right? And that does happen. I mean, how many times did we see that last year with a variety of different great quarterbacks? Is they make a huge mistake. Oh, there was a flag on the field. They get another shot to go. I mean, it happens for Patrick Mahomes all the time. So I'm not saying that you want to be reckless with the football if you're Bo Nix, but I think testing downfield against a guy like Pat Surtain, it can help you in a variety of different ways. And so I like that the defense, though, is making it, they're not going to go out there and make it easy on him. Why would they do that? I love that they're making it hard for these guys. And I think that they want to win every day at practice. They want to be the ones that are getting talked about. They want to be the most feared defense in the league. And it's only going to make the entire offense better the harder they make it for them. It's like, Cody, I played basketball with my kids outside. If they come in the lane, I'm swatting that thing out of there. Don't even mess around. I'm not letting you score. You got to earn
builds
that.
Character.
So it builds character. That's right. So I'm not saying that's necessarily what's going on out there at Broncos practice, but I do love that the defense is making it as hard as possible for the offense to get things going in practice, because they're not going to face probably anybody better than them this season.
I think Sean said it best after practice. He likes the fact that the offense and defense are having days where, one unit is shining and the other unit is not winning the day. He said you'd be a little more concerned if it was one-sided all of camp. He said that's not the case here. And certainly Bo and the offense aren't afraid to test them and even test tight windows. That's what I like about Bo. This defense is going to make Bo and this offense even better going forward. We're excited about that. But Broncos Country, as we were getting to the Sean Payton press conference on Friday, we all got the notification Micah Parsons has requested a trade. And everyone on Twitter said, should the Broncos inquire? I'll tell you why they shouldn't. Sayre will tell you why they should. Here on today's episode, Locked On Broncos. Today's Locked On Broncos podcast is brought to you by our friends over there at Monarch Money. And if you're like me, do you ever wish managing your money felt easier? All the time. But with Monarch Money, it can be, and it is. Whether you're growing your savings or you're planning on a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all of your accounts, your investments, and your spending in one place, so you can have all the answers necessary. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth.
What I think is the best feature about Monarch Money is how easy they make it to manage your money, because it simply shows you everything all in one place. I mean, how many of us have ever wished that at some point or another I didn't have to open up 100 different apps to see where my money is going, all my investments, things like that? You can do that with Monarch Money. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Jerry Jones done messed up in Dallas, and the rest of the NFL. 31 other teams would be interested in having Micah Parsons. Obviously, that's not going to be the case, but should the Denver Broncos inquire about his availability? Should they get on the phone and say, hey, Jerry, what's going on with Micah Parsons over there? Are you willing to trade him? Cody's going to tell you why he doesn't think they should, and I'm going to tell you why I think the Broncos maybe should make this deal. But Broncos Country, appreciate you all so much for tuning in every single day here on the show. We love and just are so privileged to get to do this every day. So if you haven't already done so, hit subscribe. We appreciate you rocking with us wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Cody, let's talk about this. This was the biggest breaking news, I guess, in the NFL on the day. Micah Parsons is one of the premier defensive players, if not the best pass rusher in the game. And kind of shockingly, he's still without a new contract. I think that's kind of been, everybody just figures, well, a guy like that, he's going to get what he's due, or he's going to get what he wants. He's going to break the bank. He's going to get the Brinks truck, have him back it up, blank check. He's one of those type of players. And if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, you got to be sitting there just shaking your head, because he's requested a trade. I mean, it's gotten to the point that he basically wrote a goodbye letter to Dallas Cowboys fans. So the question now becomes, where is he going to play football long term? And do the Denver Broncos enter that discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a great meme that's come out of the announcement. NFL Network's Tom Pelissero, when it first happened, he put out a tweet, and the first quote of that was something that Micah Parsons said in there that said, unfortunately, I no longer want to be here. So anytime something bad happens this upcoming season, Sayre, I am going to post that as the running meme there. We'll see how it all goes here. But this is wild. And obviously, if you're a Broncos fan interested in the Micah Parsons news, maybe some of the options they could have, make sure you go check out our friends over there at Locked On Cowboys as they reacted to this whole saga live here. Sayre, as great of a player, an elite level player that Micah Parsons is, obviously went a couple of picks right after Patrick Surtain did in the 2021 NFL draft. And I even think in the pre-draft process, We were talking about Micah Parsons to Denver there as someone we would have liked, but Denver's got Surtain, reigning defensive player of the year. While Micah would make this Broncos defense even scarier, especially on paper, and he would bring another elite level pass rush presence to it, I don't think that they should do this. And I think the main reason here has to do with you'd probably have to get rid of one of your star guys. I think a Micah Parsons trade to Denver would spell the end of Nick Bonitto. That'd probably send Nick Bonitto to Dallas. I don't want to do that. Look, I think Nick Bonitto is emerging. He's a rising star here. The cost that Micah Parsons would command essentially in terms of draft capital you'd have to give it up to get him, on top of what you're going to have to pay him in terms of a new contract extension, that's going to be astronomical. I think what did TJ Watt just get on a per year basis? 41 million. I guarantee you Micah would be at like 41.9 or 42 or 43. That is just too much, in my opinion, especially when you talk about the other pieces you have around you. If you traded for Micah Parsons, that would more than likely mean that you have to send one or two defenders, maybe an offensive player away because of salary cap. Who knows how that's going to work? But you'd have to get rid of some of your younger players to bring in a player who's a great player at that. But the cost for him is going to be so big. It also, I think, would interrupt your ability to pay a guy like Zach Allen and guys down the road, especially while the Broncos have Bo Nix on a rookie deal and they have Pat Surtain freshly extended, Quinn Miners. You don't have those cap hits necessarily coming up and hurting you right now. To me, the financial part of it is a big reason why not. And I'm also going to stand by and say, hey, I think Nick Bonitto should be on this team long-term. I like Nick. He's been dominant at training camp. And I think that's where I would like to stand here, as good of a player as Micah Parsons would be. But I'm curious for you as to why you think the Broncos should inquire in trading for him.
Well, I like Nick Bonitto as well, and I'm excited about his development. And of course, if we're living in the realm of realism here, we're probably talking more likely about a Broncos team that for the foreseeable future includes Nick Bonitto on a contract extension, as opposed to trading a horde of draft picks and plus Bonitto probably to acquire Micah Parsons. So I want to just preface that by saying that I'm excited about Nick Bonitto's development. And I'm not just saying, let's dump the guy to go get the next guy. I think when you talk about the potential of acquiring a player like Micah Parsons, you're talking about acquiring somebody that these types of players very, very rarely ever in the NFL become available. And we don't, at this point, all we know is that the Cowboys have no intention of trading him. At the same time, the player is saying, I want to be traded. And so you're at a standstill there. So you might as well talk about the hypothetical. He's 26 years old, just turned 26 this offseason, averaging 14.2 sacks per 17 games. He's a game wrecker out there. And I think the Broncos, because they're in the midst of contract extension negotiations with their star defensive players already, you're already proving, hey, I'm willing to go and pay top dollar or pretty close to top dollar for an edge guy. And yes, it would probably be close to double average annual value here. So you're talking about almost the cost of paying two players for the price of one, because you mentioned, Cody, okay, Zach Allen, the average top five for interior defensive linemen right now in the NFL would be around 25 million per year. So that would be rough if they franchise tag him next offseason. Let's just throw that out there. Nick Bonitto probably going to get somewhere between 23 and 25 as well. So you're legitimately talking about the potential of paying one guy, Micah Parsons, the price of two players, plus giving up, maybe multiple first round picks and Bonitto to get him. And I think that it would be a tough pill to swallow, but it's one of those situations where the Broncos, do they have one of the top 10 rosters in the NFL? I believe they do. They are top 10 next year in available cap space with over 67 million or 68 million, something like that. They can afford this. They could structure things in such a way to fit it under the salary cap. And if you believe that Bo Nix is that guy that's going to lead you to a Super Bowl, you have windows in the NFL. You can reset windows. You can go through, hey, the next 4 years, we're going to roll with Micah Parsons and we'll see what else we can add around him, as opposed to, let's see if we can try to accumulate as much talent as we can with the guys like Bonitto and Allen. I just think when you have a premier pass rusher like this, like when Khalil Mack became available, the Bears gave up the farm to get him, and they had pretty immediate success, right? Obviously, they didn't win it all or anything like that, but guys like this just don't become available often. And I think a guy like Micah Parsons could bring that Von Miller type of impact off the edge for this team. And it would be something that I would be very much in favor of if the Broncos could actually make a deal happen.
And I think there's just so many moving pieces to a move like this. And certainly it would change the landscape of the AFC West. And, all of a sudden, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, and Geno Smith are like, wow, they got Micah Parsons now. Like I said, an elite level, unbelievably ridiculous player. He is a Madden created player. I mean, Micah is an unbelievable talent there. Just like I said, I'm more along the lines of I'd rather pay Nick Bonito and Zach Allen, and guys that want to be here. And I think that a guy like Micah Parsons, I feel like he might want to be in the Mile High City, but we don't know. But you're bringing in a new guy, you're taking a big chance. It would be a big chance. Yes, he's a proven player in Dallas, but how will he mesh in a new environment? I think he's an elite level enough player. He could probably go to a terrible team in the NFL and still have an immediate impact and do that. It's rare to find players like that, but it also drives up the premium, I think, on those types of players around the NFL. And I think everybody's watching. And look, I think, if we're going to look at it from a 30,000-foot view that's not related to the Broncos, imagine being a Cowboys fan right now and seeing this happen in real time. And you got CeeDee Lamb tweeting, shaking my head, like, just pay the man, like, stop doing all the extracurricular stuff. It is crazy over there in Jerry's world, and thankfully the Broncos have great ownership and great management running the team here. Broncos country, we want to hear from you. Should the Broncos entertain the idea of trading for a guy like Micah Parsons? Make your case in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, or you can tweet us on social media at Cody Roark NFL, at Sayre Bedinger, at Locked On Broncos. We're not done yet, Broncos country. We still have more recap of Friday's training camp practice ahead of Saturday's scrimmage, which we'll preview as well, including an update on Dre Greenlaw and his injury status. You'll get that on today's episode, Locked On Broncos. Today's episode of Locked On Broncos is brought to you by our friends over there at 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. So when it's time to fuel up and turn it up, 5 Hour Energy Transfusion is the way to go. Whether you're sinking birdies or being flirty or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. So let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized.
Especially if you want to hit great shots late in the round, Cody. There's some of my best shots have come later in the round after I've already screwed up my score way too much for it to really matter. But I hit the pin on a par 3 one time late in a round, and I'm like, man, why couldn't I be doing this all day, right? But that's why we need 5 Hour Energy. So if you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. And this offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. So whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5 Hour Energy shots today.
The Denver Broncos will scrimmage on Saturday in what's expected to be a fully padded, highly competitive period here. But will Dre Greenlaw be back into the mix here? We'll share all our updates on today's episode, Locked On Broncos. Real quick, thanks once again to everyone in Broncos country. We appreciate you so much for making the show exactly what it is. Sayre, let's get to the news that I think a lot of people wanted an update on initially after yesterday's scare with Dre Greenlaw and the quad injury. The Broncos, they gave Greenlaw an MRI. The MRI results came back clean, and as what Sean Payton indicated in his press conference, and that he just felt tight and that something kind of just pulled up. But there's no real injury there. It's just tightness and something that the Broncos are going to be smart with, is what Sean alluded to after practice with how they get him back onto the field, maybe even his overall snap count going into some practices. He even made the allusion maybe with some guys that they may get reps, like certain guys may get more reps in a joint practice against the 49ers and not play in the game on Saturday, or it could be vice versa. Not a lot of reps in practice, but you get some preseason auditioning stuff. So obviously a lot to look forward to next week here. But the best news here, Dre Greenlaw should be good to go.
Cody, I've got a handful of shoes in my big collection of sneakers that I have. I've got a handful that are just their Sunday shoes, right? They're shoes that I ain't wearing until I get to Sundays. And I'm not wearing them if it's bad weather. I'm not wearing them if it's snowing outside. I'm putting those bad boys on ice for nice days where I know they're not going to get messed up. And I feel like that's kind of what the Broncos got to do with Dre Greenlaw here. It's like, hey, that's a Sunday guy right there. Like, I don't care how we get him there. He's got to make it to Sundays in the regular season. That's the goal right now. It's to get him. bubble wrap Dre Greenlaw. The guy, by the way, Cody, I saw a picture where he's got his like jersey tucked under his shoulder pads. The dude already looks like he's made of bubble wrap. Essentially, his abs are popping out all over the place out there.
He's got a crazy athletic build, man. We used to say that about Jonas Griffith. This guy, Drake Greenlaw, is chiseled out of stone. Like, he's ridiculously athletic. It's unbelievable. I wish I could look like that.
Seriously, the guy's jacked. So, I mean, look, physically, we know he's going to be good, and we know that he brings that tone setting. So, yeah, keep him on the snap count during training camp. Let's not screw around with this. I think the scare has got us all enough. Like, we had Drew Sanders carted off. Alex Singleton's going to probably be in a hand cast or a forearm cast or whatever it is. Dre Greenlaw, he's the guy. Like, besides Talanoa Hufanga, he's the guy that's going to take this defense to the next level. So make sure you're getting him to Sundays in the fall.
That's the most important thing, I think, for that position group as well. We got an update on rookie outside linebacker Q Robinson, who I noticed after Tuesday's practice, he was limping pretty significantly coming off the field. We didn't see him Wednesday. We didn't see him Thursday. He was back out on the field with a knee brace on Friday, no helmet, just observing. And Sean Payton told us after practice that the rookie pass rusher has a bone bruise and that there's just some things that they're taking care of that are symptomatic. But the expectation is that he'll be back on the practice field on Monday. So a good sign for the Broncos rookie pass rusher that they drafted in this year's NFL draft. He'll obviously be in the mix with Jonah Ellis and Dondre Tillman behind Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonito here. But let's talk about a couple of standouts here as well that didn't get as much focus early on in the show. Troy Franklin continuing to stack days, had himself a nice day, whether it was catching passes from Bo Nix, Jarrett Stidham, or Sam Ehlinger. He was making plays, and he caught a big pass, 20, 25 yards, a perfect throw by Ehlinger across the middle of the field. You're seeing him go up and win these contested ball situations. His aggressive, his releases off the line of scrimmage. He's having a great camp, and Sean Payton said that in his post-practice presser as well.
That's exciting. You want to see and hear about him continually stacking days. And I think that's what we heard also from his 2024 draft classmate, Audric Estime. Once again, kind of stacking another day out there, just looking really physical, breaking tackles, being that physical presence at the position that the Broncos need him to be. Also sound like Blake Watson made a couple of plays out there, Cody, and that's exciting for the running back position, where I think you and I are both kind of leaning maybe towards the Broncos keeping more along the lines of 4 guys at that spot instead of 3. So that competition is very much heating up. And I think the preseason, Sean Payton said, the entire spectrum of this offseason is going to be considered when it comes to the running back position. So it's less of day to day, and it is way more about stacking days. So when you're hearing about Estime and Watson stacking days, that's important.
That whole body of work is what Sean kind of alludes to. I want to go back to Troy here for a minute, because Sean did give us a little bit of insight as to what they're doing and how he's managing the workload for a guy like Troy Franklin. Well, Troy, compared to a year ago, I mean, he looks like an entirely different player in a great way. And that's exciting here, I think, when you factor in this overall wide receiver room. But not only is Troy playing the Z role, he's also playing what Sean Payton called the sub or the slot role there. So he's working outside, he's working inside as well, which is great. And you have other guys working in specified roles, whereas I think you have Vele and Troy Franklin are 2 guys who are really kind of working in these 2 spots in the slot and also on the outside. So having guys that are complementary that can do those things, I think, is beneficial here for the depth of that wide receiver room. I'm excited about that. But I want to highlight a couple of special team standouts here. Look, Chris Abrams-Drain, I felt like last year when he got on the field a little bit more on special teams, thought as a jammer, he did a really good job. But in today's special teams period, I thought he stood out like a sore thumb, right? He was going against Trent Sherfield and J.L. Skinner, who were playing the jammer role there. He was able to beat those guys, get downfield where he would have made a play on the returner there. So a big opportunity for Chris Abrams-Drain to see more time on the field in his second season in the NFL. And then obviously a little shout out to an undrafted rookie free agent, Joshua Pickett, also shining as a gunner there. The special teams work is going to be big with everything coming up. And I think that's going to be something we're going to see heavily emphasized here in the preseason. I'm excited to see how the Broncos attack the special teams approach, especially in the return game.
Is there anybody you feel like, hey, I really haven't seen enough from this guy, or I'm not seeing a lot from this player or a couple of players? I mean, is there anybody that's not standing out that has been a little bit disappointing to you so far in camp?
I don't know about disappointing. I would just say more so maybe just haven't seen like their name called a little too much. It would have been Damari Mathis at corner for me. I love Damari, but in the practices I've been there, it's been quiet. Damari actually had himself a good practice. I think on Friday he ended the day by intercepting Jarrett Stidham. He was working press coverage against Pat Bryant. And I thought that he did a really good job staying on the hip. Pat Bryant slipped on the route, and Damari was able to pick it, and that ended the practice. I mean, I think Damari needed that. But aside from that play, like Damari's had a really, really quiet training camp, especially with just the focus being on Jade Barron, J Mac, and Pat and Riley. It's just hard for him to be in that position that he's in. I would even say at safety too, JL Skinner, not so much on defense. We're not seeing too much just yet. And I don't know if that's just because you're evaluating so many guys at training camp, but maybe we'll see him really kind of shine here in the preseason. I think special teams, he's been a standout. But defensively, we haven't seen a lot of plays so far throughout the entire training camp practice. And really on the offensive side of the ball, I feel like the tight end room has been quiet outside of Evan Ingram and obviously Adam Troutman, which I find to be very interesting because maybe that could be a position. Caleb Lohner's been emerging a little bit more as of late the last couple of days, but they've been standing out more so than guys like Nate Adkins and Lucas Kroll or even Caleb Prescorn at this point. I'm very curious to see if Denver's going to add to this position before or during the preseason.
Yeah, I am too. I think that's one of the most concerning position groups on the roster right now. I think if I had to rank them, I would say inside linebacker, where they added Garrett Wallow. We were talking before the show about how the team now has 3 different iterations of the Garrett tree. You got Garrett Bowles, who spells his name one way, Garrett Wallow now, and then Garrett Nelson, who's the double R, double T on the team. So all the Garretts in Denver will take as many as we can get, apparently. But yeah, Garrett Wallow coming in to play some inside linebacker. I think that's the number one most concerning position group on the team for me right now, followed closely by tight end. So I hope that the Broncos are looking for ways to upgrade there if you're George Payton and Sean Payton. I mean, yeah, the young players developing that has tremendous value, but also if you have a chance to upgrade the roster now, I mean, you might as well do it. It brings competition for everybody. So those are the 2 positions to me that I would say, yeah, those are standing out right now, as we talked about in the offseason, as probably the most concerning on the roster.
Well, Broncos Country, we want to hear from you and your thoughts on today's episode of the show. We appreciate you so much for rocking with us. Tomorrow's episode, you're going to get a bonus show here of Locked On Broncos because Bo Nix and the offense are going to look to bounce back. It's a scrimmage day on Saturday. Can they strike back against what we perceive to be is one of the NFL's best defenses in a Saturday scrimmage format? We'll get all the recap and action here on Locked On Broncos. We'll see you then.